Welcome to Healing Wisdom, a Thursday morning talk show featuring guests sharing their stories and knowledge. We discuss the healing aspects of the arts, metaphysics, social justice, and adventure through all types of terrain. So join me, Pandora Peoples, here on WOMR 92.1 FM in Provincetown and WFMR 91.3 FM in Orleans. We're streaming worldwide at WOMR.org.
Hello, Gabriel.
Hey, Jamie.
We're on lockdown.
Yeah, I've been worried about you. I don't think initially I knew what our friendship would become, but she's been one of the few constants in my life, us both being queer and trans.
We can talk next Sunday, huh?
Yeah, call me on my birthday.
I hate being cooped up in that cell so much. If I'm laying there in the dark, it seems like it's closing in on me. If I come out, I will no longer paint any artwork related to prison life. You know what I want people to feel when they see my art?
What?
I want them to know that we're good people.
My first guest is Emmy-nominated news documentary producer and director Karla Murthy, talking about her film Love, Jaime, which tells the story of a 66-year-old Mexican-American trans woman and self-taught artist who spent 30 years in a men's prison in Texas, and her friendship with a volunteer who believed in her and her art. The documentary Love, Jaime won the Grand Jury Prize at Outfest Film Festival. So Love, Jaime is part of the inaugural PBS American Masters Shorts series, and people can now see it at pbs.org, at the PBS app, and the American Masters YouTube channel. So how did you find this story?
So it was actually my producer and my DP who first told me about Jaime Diaz. His name is Andrew Fredericks, and he was working on a different film and filming at the gallery with Daniel Cooney. And Dan mentioned this upcoming exhibit and this artist that he had with Jaime. And so then Andrew shared with me the art, and we were both just really struck by the color and the detail in her work. I mean, you wouldn't necessarily know this was being made by someone who's incarcerated. But it really wasn't until Daniel shared one of her letters that I thought that this could be a film. There was something about her words on that paper that they just really struck me. And she was just so honest and so compassionate and just open. And it felt like this relationship, between two different people. It wasn't a one-sided kind of relationship, even with Daniel. And I just loved that about her. I thought her voice was just so strong and so powerful. And that's kind of when the idea for a film came about.
Can you talk about the relationship between Gabriel and Jaime?
Yeah, so Gabriel first met Jaime from a letter 11 years ago. It's pretty amazing, how we meet people in our lives that become so important to us. But Gabriel had been volunteering, this was now 11 years ago, for an organization called Black and Pink. And one of the things they do is they have a pen pal program, and they try and reach out to people who are incarcerated from the LGBTQ community. One of the reasons why that's important is if you're getting mail, it means there are people outside that care about you, and it kind of provides a level of safety. So, Gabriel was in the middle of processing they get hundreds of letters a week, and was at one of these mail processing events and just happened to get a note from Jaime about the newsletter, thanking them for the newsletter. And this note was beautifully adorned. It looked like someone had spent, at least an hour drawing on this one little note that was just really essentially a thank you note. And Gabriel felt just compelled to respond because they took so much time and just really loved the art and, offered their personal home address. And as, is in the film, Jamie wrote back. And that's what kind of started this 11-year, friendship that is now evolved into family.
Can you talk about Friends family and chosen family?
I've been thinking that about friends and family and chosen family a lot recently, especially I just went on a trip with I have 3 sisters, and I went on a trip with them, and I was thinking about family and like just the dynamics of when your family is your family versus this chosen family, like between Jamie and Gabriel. There's something just so powerful and profound about chosen family because there's not the same sort of obligation that comes with just family. It goes beyond that, and I found it just so moving to see these two people reaching out. They don't even live in the same place, just reaching out through letters and being able to forge this beautiful bond. It's really powerful what it's been able to achieve, and it's one of the things we wanted to kind of show in the film is just how this friendship and this idea of chosen family has changed both of their lives in very, profound ways. I mean, I do have friends that have become family in my life. My closest friend, just as you were saying with kids, I have kids and she has a child and they call each other cousins. And that's their aunt and uncle, and it it works in the same way as family, but it's something that it shows just that like how much we as a species just need community, and family can mean it different things. We don't live with our parents and our siblings the way we used to maybe in the past. And so we just have this need to create family wherever we can. And like in the film, it's about like looking for that personal connection with someone across thousands of miles. There might be obligation that happens with chosen family, but you've chosen it. And the act of choosing it, I think, that any sense of obligation just feels different.
Jamie's been granted parole after 30 years of incarceration. She had a stroke towards the end of that time and then had to stay in the hospital for a while before continuing her recovery outside of the prison walls. So can you talk about that a little bit?
Yeah, so we finished the film last year, and that's when it premiered at Outfest, and then was doing festivals, and Jamie wasn't supposed to be even up for parole till next year. So, and then it was actually Gabriel and I were scheduled to have their first contact visit ever, like in their whole 10-year friendship. They had never been able to physically touch each other in their visits. It had always been between glass. And they graciously, I don't know, it's up to the warden, but they let me tag along. And this was in Texas. And so when we got there, the day before we got there, or as we were landing, I think, or that same day, we found out that she had had a stroke. And I was so thankful that both Gabriel and I could be there because she was in a hospital. And it was, none of these, it was a civilian hospital, but so she had to be surrounded by guards and people who didn't know her, and she couldn't speak. She had had this massive stroke, it had just happened. So I was so glad that we were there to kind of show everyone, doctors, everyone, like who this person is, and to be able to speak for her and to show her love and care, and yeah, just that we were there to be advocates for her for that weekend. And then we were able to go back again, and she was already slowly improving. And the next month, she had been moved to a prison hospital. But I think this is one of the reasons why she was granted parole early, is because of her medical condition. And she was, also going to be up for parole anyway very soon. And so then it was just a matter of finding an appropriate place to release her to in Dallas. But the timing of it though was pretty incredible. So it was sort of a waiting game when we got news that she had gotten parole. It was just about them finding a place, and so we didn't know when that was going to happen, when they would actually release her. And it wasn't like a week before that they told us, when she was being released. And it happened to coincide just like 3 days. It was a Friday, and our film was being released on American Masters on Monday for Pride Month, like the beginning of Pride Month. And it was just such an amazing thing to find out that she would be able to finally watch the film for herself during Pride Month on American Masters as a free woman. So it was such an amazing thing for that to happen. We're really lucky that she was able, because in the past, when we finished the film, I was only able to send her a transcript and a few photographs. So yeah, so it's really exciting that she can now see the film.
Wow. And folks can help with Jaime's re-entry at lovejamiefilm.com and find Gabriel's GoFundMe for her, which is close to reaching its goal now, just shy of it. If you're just joining us now, you're listening to Healing Wisdom on WOMR 92.1 FM in Provincetown and WFMR 91.3 FM in Orleans. Today we're speaking with documentary producer and director Karla Murthy. We're talking about her film, Love, Jaime, which tells the story of a 66-year-old Mexican-American trans woman and self-taught artist who spent 30 years in a men's prison in Texas. You can see Love, Jaime on pbs.org, the PBS app, and the American Masters YouTube channel.
The film has made it possible to attract or just to grow a network for her of support. And it's been amazing to see how many people, I mean, of course she's going to need a lot more, but people have been donating free haircuts, or a company that has like technology for people who have strokes. A ride, Jaime is very religious. Someone has offered her rides to go to church. So many different ways that people have been able to reach out and support her. And I think this film had contributed to like growing that sort of support network for her.
So my last question is, you're New York City based now, but you grew up in Houston, Texas. So can you talk a little bit about that? Because you share in common that Texas link with Jaime.
I think that was also one of the reasons I wanted to make the film, was because Jaime and I are both from Texas and grew up in Houston. And so when I found that out about her, I was like, oh, like we sort of have that sort of shared experience. And she kind of grew up and hung out in the same neighborhood where I went to high school, which was in the Montrose area of Houston, which is also the like historically gay neighborhood of Houston. And when we talked, it's like we knew all the same places. I mean, there's an age gap between us, but like the clubs that she was going to were like the ones that I was trying to sneak into. And, I like to imagine that we probably passed each other on the street and didn't even realize that we would be connected in this way. And yeah, I think there's just something also about, I just really love to tell stories that are based in Texas, because I think people also have, I don't know, just views of Texas that aren't accurate. I mean, it's a very diverse and big state, and I love to tell these kinds of stories that you may not know about, that are based, in my hometown.
Well, it's a wonderful story. Thank you so much for doing the work that you do.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me on. I really appreciate it.
You've been listening to Healing Wisdom at Outermost Radio. All of our shows are podcasts at WOMR.org. Also check out healingwisdomradioshow.com and contact me at pandora@WOMR.org. Our theme music is provided by Mason. You can find her at masonmusic.com. That's MAESYN.